The evening rush had begun at a Riviera, one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. The air carried the scent of truffle butter and aged wine, softened by the background hum of violins. For the wealthy, this was just another night of indulgence. For Harper Miller, it was survival, balancing trays, dodging impatient hands, and forcing a polite smile through sheer exhaustion. At 27, Harper had learned to keep her head down. Wealthy customers didn't notice waitresses. They noticed the champagne refilled before the glass ran dry, or the steak delivered exactly medium rare. She detrained herself to disappear in plain sight. Until tonight. She approached a private booth where Lincoln Davis, the billionaire real estate tycoon, sat with his glamorous girlfriend, Vanessa Blake. He was magnetic, every gesture measured, his presence commanding. Vanessa laughed too loudly at his stories, her sequined dress sparkling under the chandelier. Harper had seen this scene 100 times, men with power, women clinging to it. She placed the cocktails on the table, careful not to spill. That's when it happened. Lincoln's phone buzzed. He reached for it, the screen lighting up as Harper set down the last glass. Her eyes flickered only for a second, but that second changed everything. On the screen was a photo, a woman smiling in a faded summer dress, hair tied back with a scarf. Harper's heart slammed against her ribs, her vision blurred as the tray slipped in her hand. It was her mother, the woman who had worked 2 jobs to raise her, the woman who never spoke about her past, the woman who had sworn they were safe from secrets. And here she was, staring back from the billionaire's phone. Before Harper could stop herself, the words tore out of her throat. "That's my mom in your photo." The restaurant froze. Conversations faltered, glasses clinked awkwardly. A dozen heads turned toward the booth. Harper's voice had sliced through the room like broken glass. Lincoln lifted his gaze slowly, his steel blue eyes narrowing. His phone was now face down on the table. "Excuse me," his voice was calm, but it carried the weight of someone who wasn't used to being questioned. Harper's breath caught, her face burning. She wanted to shrink, to disappear, but her body betrayed her. She pointed at the phone. "That picture, that's my mother. Why do you have it?" Vanessa let out a sharp laugh, dripping with contempt. "Are you serious?" A waitress accusing him. "Honey, you must be confused." "I'm not confused," Harper snapped, her voice trembling but fierce. "I know my mother's face." The silence in the restaurant thickened. Diners leaned in, eager for scandal. Paparazzi weren't allowed inside, but whispers had a way of crawling into tabloids. Lincoln leaned back in his chair, studying Harper like she was a puzzle he didn't remember buying. "I think you've made a mistake," he said evenly. "Now why don't you go back to your work before you embarrass yourself further?" Harper's pulse roared in her ears. Her knees shook, but the anger rising in her chest anchored her. "I'm not embarrassed. I want to know why a billionaire has a photo of my mom on his phone." Vanessa's smirk widened. "Security," she called out, waving a manicured hand. "This girl's obviously unstable." The manager, pale and sweating, rushed over. Harper stepped aside. "Mr. Davis, I sincerely apologize." But Harper stood her ground. "You can fire me, I don't care. I just want the truth." Lincoln's jaw tightened, a flicker of something unreadable passing through his eyes. Fear, maybe, regret. It vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Enough," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "Leave the table." The manager grabbed Harper's elbow, whispering urgently, "You're crossing a line you can't uncross." But Harper yanked her arm free. Her voice cracked, but it carried. "What is he hiding?" Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Phones came out, some diners pretending to check messages but slyly recording. Vanessa leaned closer to Lincoln, her tone mocking. "Honestly, darling, she's pathetic, probably desperate for attention. Maybe her mom was one of your staff from years ago." Harper's vision swam with rage. "Don't talk about my mother like that." For a fleeting second, Lincoln's mask slipped. His hand clenched around his glass, knuckles white. He opened his mouth, but instead of answering, he lifted his drink and took a slow sip, dismissing her entirely. The dismissal hurt more than the laughter echoing around her. The manager hissed, "Harper, go now." Her throat burned, but her voice came out steady. "I'm not done, not until I know the truth." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Get her out before she ruins dessert." The manager motioned to security. 2 large men in suits appeared, their shadows falling over Harper. Her hands trembled as they stepped closer. The room felt smaller, every eye on her. And still she couldn't look away from Lincoln. The billionaire who stared back at her like she was nothing, yet for some reason couldn't meet her eyes when she said mother. Her chest heaved as the guards moved in. One whispered, "Miss, don't make this harder." But Harper lifted her chin. "I'll leave," she said, her voice raw, "but this isn't over." The guards escorted her out, their grip firm but not rough. The last thing she saw was Lincoln turning his phone face down again, as if burying a ghost. Outside, the cool night air slapped her cheeks. Tears threatened, but she shoved them back. Her world was spinning, the city lights smearing into streaks of gold and red. She pressed a shaking hand against her chest. Her mother on his phone. It wasn't a coincidence, it couldn't be. The question echoed in her mind, louder than the honking cabs and shouting pedestrians. Why did a billionaire have her mother's photo? And deep down, Harper knew this was only the beginning. The door thudded shut behind Harper and swallowed the violin musical. Night hit her like a cold slap, steam rising from a sewer grate, taxis knifing through wet pavement, neon smearing the sidewalk in bruised color. The security guards lingered just inside the glass, watching to make sure she didn't whirl around and charge back. She wouldn't, not because she was scared, because her legs were shaking, and if she moved too fast, the world might tilt and drop her straight into the street. The restaurant manager burst out a second later, breath foggy and chilled. He was immaculate as always, bow-tie crisp, smile dead. "What was that, Harper?" he hissed. "You just detonated a grenade in the middle of the dining room." She swallowed, pulse hammering. "He had a photo of my mother. I wasn't imagining it. You were out of line." He scanned the sidewalk like the building itself might be listening. "Mr. Davis is important. Men like him can make trouble disappear. People jobs." Harper folded her arms to keep her hands from shaking. "Men like him dink into own my mother's face. Be suspended," he said, each word clipped. "Immediate administrative leave, pending review. HR will email you." "Is that what we're calling it?" she asked, a laugh catching in her throat. "A review." The door opened again. Vanessa slipped out in a glittering swirl and the smell of expensive perfume, eyes bright with the thrill of being seen. She considered Harper the way someone inspects a stain on designer silk. "You made quite the scene. Very brave, very foolish." "I do answer to you," Harper said. Vanessa tilted her head. "You sure? Because from where I'm standing, you answer to everyone who can pay to ruin you." She held up 2 manicured fingers, counting. 1. Slander. 2. Trespassing if you step back inside. 3. Unemployment. Her smile snapped shut. "Don't try to climb a ladder that isn't yours." "Why does he have her picture?" Harper asked. Nessa's laugh was soft and cruel. "Sweetheart, billionaires have entire archives of photos, charity boards, social events, staff directories. Maybe your mom catered a party once. Don't make this bigger than it is." She slid back toward the door, then paused. "Fairly tepke awards. We get then." The glass swung closed behind her, sealing the warmth away. The manager exhaled, defeated. "Go home, Harper. Sleep. Let this die." But something in Harper had clicked from fear to fury. It won't die. Not while that picture lives in his phone. She turned and walked fast before her eyes betrayed her. The city swallowed her steam light noise. A bus hauled by and made her coat flap like a desperate flag. Half a block down, her phone buzzed with an email. Subject: administrative leave. She didn't open it. Another buzz, unknown number. She did a text explode on her screen. "Walk away. You won't like what you find." Harper stopped dead. The world narrowed to the rectangle of light in her hand. Her throat dried. She typed with clumsy thumbs. "Who is this?" 3 dots blinked, disappeared, blinked again. "Someone who's trying to help you keep your job." Harper leaned against the storefront window, heartbeat skittering. Her reflection stared back, apron askew, mascara smudged from sweat and fury. "Woman to throw in a grenade and watch it bloom." She typed, "Why does it have a sword on my mother?" No reply. A sleek black as Fury ghosted up to the curb. The passenger window hummed down. A man in a charcoal suit leaned across, face unreadable. "Harper Miller." She stepped back from the curb. "Who's asking?" "Messenger for Mr. Davis." He held out a heavy cream envelope, hand-delivered, not taking anything from him. "Your choice," the man said mildly, "but I'm required to say you received it." When she didn't move, he set the envelope on the stoop beside her, idled once, and the window climbed shut. The SUV melted into traffic like it had never existed. Harper stared at the envelope. It looked expensive, arrogant, like a wedding invitation to a party you'd be thrown out of for breathing wrong. She picked it up anyway. Inside, a short letter on thick stationery, a non-disclosure agreement, and a check. Her lungs hitched. Vanessa's voice replayed in her head. "Get a lawyer before you get loud." The letter was precise. "Ms. Miller, we understand tonight's scene arose from an unfortunate misunderstanding. To protect the privacy of all parties, please sign the enclosed confidentiality agreement. In exchange, accept the attached gesture. Any further disruption will be pursued to the fullest extent of the law." No signature, only the firm's name in stark black. The check made her stomach turn. A gust tugged the pages. Harper folded them with deliberate care and slid everything back into the envelope. Then she resealed her coat and kept walking because standing still felt too much like drowning. She cut across to a grittier block where the glow of white tablecloths gave way to a neon bodega sign and the smell of frying onions, the ordinary world, the one where her mother had taught her to count change and keep her promises. Her phone rang. Mom. She answered in a breath. Mom. Silence and her mother's voice, thinner than usual. Harper, are you okay? Harper closed her eyes. I'm fine. I think I saw Mom. I saw your face on a man's phone. Lincoln Davis. Why would he? Harper, her mother cut in urgent, frayed. Listen to me. Don't do anything. Don't talk to anyone from that restaurant. Don't sign anything. He sent me a letter, an NDA, and money. The word tasted like rust. Is there something you need to tell me? Her mother breathed once, twice. Come home. That's not an answer. Please, her mother whispered, just come home. Tell me why he has your picture. The car honked somewhere close, a bottle shattered. Harper's breath fogged the night. Mom, look at me, tell me the truth. She pressed her palm to the cold glass of a closed bakery, trying to ground herself. I lost my job, or I will. I deserve answers. I didn't want this for you, her mother said. A tremor cut through the line. I didn't want any of this. What does that mean? Harper heard a sound on her mother's end, like the click of a door chain or a step on old wood. Her mother's voice dropped. Don't come up. Someone else waiting in the hallway. The word someone knifed through Harper's chest. What? Who? I don't know, her mother said, barely audible. He was standing by the mailboxes. He asked if I was Naomi Miller. He said he had a delivery. Harper's pulse stuttered. The envelope felt heavier. I'm 10 minutes away. No, her mother said, sudden steel under the strain. Go to the bodega on 113th and wait. I'll call you when the hall is clear. What? I'm not leaving you alone with. Harper, her mother's voice cracked, then firmed. Trust me this once. Don't come upstairs. Static fizzed like distant rain. Harper pressed the phone hard to her ear. Mom, I saw your face on his phone. Please tell me what he is to you. Her mother's whisper soaked the line. A mistake I hoped would never find us. The call dropped. Harper stared at the screen in horror. She called back straight to voicemail. She started running before she realized she'd moved, the city bucking around her, breath burning her lungs. She saw the bodega's neon, a tired blue open sign, and slid inside, the bell clanging. Fluorescence hummed overhead. A kid bagged chips at the register board. The world felt offensively normal. She ducked into the back aisle between jars of olives and dusty cereal boxes, fighting the urge to scream. Text her mother. I'm here. Please text me when it's safe. No bubbles, no reply. She looked down at the envelope again, that quiet thrift and expensive paper. She didn't have a lawyer. She did have rent and a mother and a fury that tasted like copper. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. Stay put. Do not go back to your building. Who are you? She typed. A pause. Someone who saw the photo, too. Her chest clenched. She typed, What do you know about my mother? The reply landed like a bruise. Enough to know Mr. Davis will never tell you the truth. Harper's hands went cold. Outside, a siren wailed, stretched thin by distance. She looked at the door, the envelope, the phone. The aisle seemed to tilt, every choice sliding to an edge. Her screen pulsed again, this time a message from her mother at last. Don't come home, they're inside. The night had not loosened its grip on Harper when she finally reached her apartment. The envelope from Lincoln still weighed down her bag like a live grenade. She shoved it onto the kitchen counter without looking, tore off her apron, and collapsed against the fridge. Her phone buzzed again. Mom. She answered in a rush. Mom, what's going on? Why does Lincoln Davis have your picture? Her mother's voice cracked, raw with fear. Harper, please don't dig into this. Promise me. I can't promise that, Harper said. I need to know the truth. Her mother went silent long enough for Harper to hear the refrigerator hum. Then softly, some things are better left buried. Harper slammed her fist against the counter. Not when they're costing me my job, not when they're threatening you. A shaky breath came through the line. You're safe if you stop now. That's not safety, Harper said. That's silence. Her mother's sob broke the fragile line of calm. Harper's anger faltered. She closed her eyes and whispered, Mom, please, just tell me who he is to you. But the line went dead. Hours later, Harper searched through her mother's apartment while Naomi was at work. She wasn't proud of it, but desperation carved away guilt. In a shoebox under a stack of old recipe cards, she found it, a yellowing envelope, brittle from time. Inside, a letter. The first line made her blood run cold. Naomi, I can't give you what you deserve. My name, my fortune, my future, it belongs elsewhere. I wish I were braver. I wish I were the man you believe I am, but I can't stay. L.D. Harper's breath stuttered. L.D. Lincoln Davis. The letter trembled in her hands. Beneath it, an old Polaroid, her mother young, smiling under a summer sky, Lincoln's arm draped around her shoulders. His face was unmistakable, cocky even then. Her stomach nodded. He wasn't just a billionaire with a photograph. He was a man who had once loved her mother and abandoned her. Harper stuffed the letter back, heart pounding. She had her answer, but it wasn't enough. It only opened more questions. The next day, Harper met Jack Reynolds at a corner booth of a cheap diner, the kind where the coffee tasted like burnt earth and the walls smelled of grease. He slid into the booth, notebook in hand. "You said you had something," Jack said. She pushed the letter across. His eyes scanned it, widening. Jesus, this is his handwriting. I've seen his signed contracts. "So it's real." Jack nodded. "It's real." Harper's voice cracked. "He left her. He left us." Jack leaned forward. "This is bigger than you realize. Lincoln Davis's entire career is built on the image of a self-made man. If the world learns he abandoned a woman pregnant with his child—" "Stop," Harper said sharply. Her hands shook. "Don't say it, not yet." Jack studied her, then lowered his voice. "Harper, if this is true, then you're—" "Don't," she snapped again. "I don't want to hear it." He leaned back, hands raised in surrender, but his eyes said the words anyway. His daughter. That night, Harper confronted her mother. Naomi sat at the kitchen table, hands folded tight, eyes red from crying. "Why didn't you tell me?" Harper asked, her voice breaking. "Why did you let me grow up without knowing?" Naomi shook her head. "Because it wouldn't have changed anything. He made his choice. I chose to protect you from his world." "But you lied to me," Harper whispered. "You lied every day." Naomi's face crumpled. "I lied to keep you safe. His world devours people, Harper. I didn't want it to devour you." Harper pulled out the letter and slapped it on the table. "Safe? You think this is safe? He still found us. He still knows who we are." Naomi stared at the letter as if it were poison. "You shouldn't have seen that." "I had to," Harper said. Tears burned her eyes. "Because you wouldn't tell me." For the first time, Naomi's voice hardened. "Harper, listen to me. Lincoln Davis is not your father. He's not your family. He's a man who ran. That's all he'll ever be." Harper shook her hand. "Maybe. But if he thinks he can erase us with a check and a contract, he's wrong." Her mother's hand shot out, gripping hers with surprising strength. "If you go after him, you'll lose. He has power you can't imagine." Harper looked at their joined hands, then at her mother's broken eyes. She whispered, "Maybe I don't care." That night sleep wouldn't come. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the letter's words burning her brain. She saw her mother's young smile, Lincoln's arm around her. She heard Naomi's whispered plea, "Don't dig into this." But it was too late. Because the truth wasn't buried anymore. It was alive and it had teeth. And Harper knew with a clarity that chilled her that this was only the beginning. The bodega clock blinked 12:03 a.m. in tired red digits while Harper stood between a rack of beef jerky and a lottery machine, clutching her phone like a talisman. Her mother's final text, "Don't come home. They're inside," sat on the screen like a bruise. Outside, the night pressed its face to the glass, neon slick and watching. She dialed Jack. He picked up on the first ring. "Where are you?" "Corner of 113th. My building isn't safe." She swallowed. "Someone's there waiting for my mom." "I'm on my way." "You don't have to." "I'm on my way," he said again and hung up. 9 minutes later, he slid into the store, hair damp from a sprint, notebook folded in his back pocket. He looked at the glowing open sign, then at Harper's pale face and lowered his voice. "Show me the messages." She handed him the phone. He read, jaw tightening at the unknown number and the warning. "This is how power telegraphs itself," he said. "No uniforms, no badges, just fear." "Can you help us disappear?" Harper asked, then hated the desperation in her voice. "I can help you be smart." He tapped the screen. "Rule 1, stop talking to unknown. Rule 2, assume anything you text is read by people who don't like you. Rule 3, we make a plan that doesn't get your mother or you hurt." "What plan?" The kind that turns a secret into a story so big it can't be buried without a crater. He nodded toward the door. Come on, I'll get you somewhere safe, then we start digging. They took a rideshare to a modest sublet kept for sources who couldn't go home. One bedroom, mismatched mugs, a couch with honest springs. He tossed her a charger. Power up, you're no good to your mom with one bar. Harper plugged in, hands shaking. What if something happens while we're here talking? We keep calling, he said. We don't walk into an ambush. She watched him set his phone on the coffee table, screen up, then scan his email. He moved like a man who had lived inside other people's secrets long enough to fear the quiet. All right, start at the beginning. Everything you know, everything you think you know, and everything you can't prove yet. What? Harper told him about the restaurant, the photo, the NDA, the check, the letter signed LD. Jack's pen scratched across paper like a tiny saw. When she finished, he drew a line under his notes. Okay, he said, we map the past. We find the overlap between Lincoln Davis and Naomi Miller that isn't hearsay or heartache. How? Public records, old society pages, alumni magazines, tax filings, property deeds. Rich people leave paper trails. The trick is reading what's missing. He opened his laptop. The blue light carved his face into angles. Your mom would have been, what, early 20s then? 21, Harper said. She told me once she spent one summer working double shifts near the river. She wouldn't say where. The Hudson, Jack murmured, already typing. Summer festivals, charity picnics, real estate groundbreakings. If Lincoln wanted a camera, he built a stage for it. They combed digital archives until the words crawled. At 1:47 a.m., Jack stilled. There, he said. On the screen, a scanned society page from a 90s newspaper, headline brassy as a trumpet. RIVR Lodge HT Summer Gala, City S Young Elite Give Back. In a grid of grainy photos, faces frozen mid-laugh, a familiar smile pulled Harper forward by the ribcage, her mother youthful and sunlit, holding a tray of champagne flutes. Standing 2 steps behind her, half-turned but unmistakable, was a younger Lincoln Davis, handing his pocketbook, the king posing as a guest. Harper's throat tightened, asked her. Jack enlarged the caption. Volunteers from the Riverside Arts Center serve guests, including rising developer Lincoln Davis, right? Riverside Arts, Jack said. If Naomi volunteered there, her name might be in a donor ledger or a payroll stub. Mom never had money to donate. Volunteer rosters are donations of time, he said, and rosters survive in storage closets. He closed the laptop and stood. Riverside Arts moved years ago. Their archives went to the Midtown Cultural Center. If we're lucky, an intern boxed everything without knowing what treasure looks like. Harper blinked at the clock. It's past 2. Lucky for us, I know the night guard. He grabbed his coat. You coming? Yes, she said before fear could vote. The Midtown Cultural Center at 2:30 a.m. smelled like dust, floor wax, and the soft neglect of funding gaps. The night guard, a retired cop named Weller, eyed Jack, then Harper, then the press badge clipped to Jack's pocket. 10 minutes, he grunted. And if my boss asks, I never learned to read a clock. 6 minutes, Jack promised. They rode the service elevator to the basement. Weller unlocked a cage where bankers' boxes slept in metal rows. Jack scanned labels. Riverside Arts Events 96-2. He hauled down 2 boxes and slit the tape with his key. Inside, programs, guest lists, and the beautiful mess of a life caught in staples. Harper flipped through a binder of volunteer schedules. Her fingers stopped. Naomi, she whispered. Naomi Miller, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, RIVR Lodge HD Gala. Good, Jack said, photographing everything. Very good. Another box yielded a stack of Polaroids, backstage shots, volunteers with paper crowns, candidates that never made the paper. Harper's breath hitched as she thumbed through them. Then her world narrowed to a 4-inch square. Her mother stood under a canvas canopy, the river winking behind her. Lincoln had his arm around Naomi's waist, forehead briefly touching hers like they'd leaned in for a joke that had turned into a habit. It wasn't posed, it was caught, 2 people who thought no one was looking. On the bottom edge in blue pen, N+L, last night of summer. Harper felt the room tilt, boxes leaning like trees in a storm. Jack steadied the photo with 2 fingers, then slid it into a manila envelope. This is the kind of truth that sells papers, he said quietly, and makes enemies. My mother said he isn't my father, Harper murmured. Her voice sounded far away in the basement air, but this looks like a beginning. It's not proof of paternity, Jack said, firm but gentle. It's proof of a relationship, Proof that your mother isn't crazy and you're not either. It's leverage. Footsteps sounded overhead, a distant door thunk. Weller's voice floated down the hall. Wrap it up. They did, back at the sublet, the city closer to dawn than midnight. Jack spread their hall on the coffee table like a general arranging maps. Here's the part you won't like, he said. We can't publish yet. Why not? Harper demanded. He's been erasing my mother for 30 years. Because he'll crush the story before it clears legal if we don't have corroboration. A letter, a photo, a roster, good, but we need a second source, someone who saw them together, someone who can't be bought or bullied. Harper sank onto the couch. Who would that be? Jack stared at the Polaroid. The person who took this. What? An event photographer. More likely a volunteer, he said, someone who had reason to point a camera where donors weren't looking. He picked up a program, scanned the committee list, and tapped a name. Marisol Vega, volunteer coordinator. You know her. I did, he said, back when she lit fires in community board meetings for fun. If she hasn't left the city, she'll remember who carried a camera. Harper's phone buzzed, her heart jackknifed, but it was only a calendar notification she'd forgotten to cancel. Dinner, Mom. She turned the screen face down. Jack checked his watch. I'll start working contact at 8. You try to sleep for 3 hours. We're no good to your mom if we collapse at noon. Harper nodded, but sleep was a stranger. She lay in the dark, eyes open, counting what-ifs until they lost their shape. In the quiet, the past felt close enough to touch. A young woman under a summer canopy, a man leaning in like a tide, a promise scribbled in ink that didn't survive the morning. At 7:11, her phone vibrated on the armrest. A voicemail from her mother, timestamped 3:02 a.m. Harper sat up so fast the room swam. She pressed play. Harper, Naomi said, breathless, as if she'd been listening for footsteps. I can't keep lying to you. If I tell you everything, you'll hate me, but you deserve the truth. Come to the old ferry pier at noon. Come alone, and don't call this number back. It won't be mine by morning. Static cracked, a muffled thud. The call ended. Harper looked at Jack. He looked at the clock. High noon, he said. That's when people settle scores in westerns. This isn't a movie, Harper whispered. He nodded once. Exactly, which is why we don't walk into a trap. Her phone buzzed again, a text from the unknown number. If you meet her today, you won't get a second chance. Choose wisely. Harper's skin went cold. Noon was 4 hours away. The city was already warming its knives. And somewhere between a secret and a story, a mother was waiting on a pier. The Hudson smelled of rust and old wood that morning, its gray waters tugging against the pylons of the abandoned ferry pier. Noon was creeping closer, and with every minute Harper's pulse throbbed harder in her throat. The voicemail from her mother still looped in her head, Naomi's voice ragged, warning that truth might ruin everything. Jack stood beside her in a dark coat, scanning the skyline like a soldier expecting an ambush. You shouldn't be here, he said. I don't have a choice, Harper replied. Her breath ghosted in the cold air. You always have a choice, Jack muttered, then softer, but I get it. The pier stretched out like a broken arm into the river. At the far end, Naomi waited, her figure small against the sweep of gray sky. Harper's chest tightened. She hadn't seen her mother look so fragile, shoulders hunched, scarf flapping like a surrender flag. Stay here, Harper whispered. Not happening, Jack said. They walked together. The planks creaked, water lapped, and seagulls screamed like hecklers in the distance. When they reached her, Naomi's eyes brimmed with tears. Mom, Harper said, but Naomi cut her off. You shouldn't have come. I had to, Harper pleaded. You said you'd detail me everything. Naomi looked from Harper to Jack. Not with him here. Jack held up his hands. I'll give you space, but I'm not leaving the pier. He stepped back a few yards, notebook tucked under his arm. Naomi's voice dropped. Harper, when I was your age, I thought Lincoln Davis loved me. He promised me a future. Then one night he told me his family would never accept me. He left before dawn, and I never saw him again. Until now, Harper said bitterly. Naomi's tears spilled. I wanted to protect you from him. He's not just a man. He's an empire. If he knows you're his blood, he'll turn you into a weapon or an enemy. Before Harper could answer, the thump of heavy boots echoed on the pier. 3 men in black coats advanced, deliberate and silent, like shadows pulling themselves free of the city. Harper froze. Jack darted forward, pulling her behind him. Stay calm, Jack whispered. One man spoke, voice cold as steel. "Miss Miller, Mr. Davis requests your cooperation." Naomi gasped. Harper clenched her fists. "Cooperation? He sent you to threaten us." "Not a threat," the man said smoothly. "An arrangement accepted, and your mother walks away untouched. Refuse," and his eyes slid toward Naomi. Rage flared hot in Harper's chest. "Tell Lincoln Davis he can come down here and say it to my face." The man smiled faintly. "He doesn't dirty his hands." Jack's voice cut sharp. "Funny, because I record everything, including this." He held up his phone, its red light glowing like a warning beacon. The men stiffened. One reached for his coat pocket, but Harper stepped forward, voice shaking with fury. "Do it. Prove to the world Lincoln Davis sends thugs to threaten waitresses and old women." The man froze. For the first time, doubt flickered across his expression. Naomi clutched Harper's arm. "Please, don't make this worse." Jack's phone buzzed. A message lit the screen. "Stop digging or she disappears." The men melted back into the fog as suddenly as they'd appeared, leaving only boot prints and the echo of menace. Harper sagged, trembling. "They'll never stop." Jack pocketed his phone. "Then we don't stop either." Naomi's eyes shone with despair. "You'll lose everything." Harper turned to her mother, jaw set. "Not everything, not you." But as Naomi looked away, Harper knew there were more secrets hiding in her mother's silence, and those secrets might cost them both more than fear ever could. By mid-morning, the city felt sharpened to a blade. Traffic hissed along the avenues, glass towers glinting like teeth. Harper stood outside Davis Global's headquarters with Jack at her shoulder, a paper envelope tucked beneath her coat, copies of the letter, copies of the Polaroid, nothing original. The revolving doors spun like a centrifuge designed to fling out anyone who didn't belong. "You don't owe him a face-to-face," Jack said. "He invited you to his office because it's home turf. He wrote the rules in the wallpaper." "I'm done being handled through messengers," Harper said. "He knows my name. He can say it to my face." Jack studied her. "If he tries to buy you." "I won't sell." They crossed the marble lobby, past a sculpture that looked like a knot of silver thorns. The receptionist smiled, the cold smile of someone trained to remove wrinkles from reality. "Miss Miller, Mr. Davis will see you." Security badges materialized. An assistant with a flawless blowout guided them to a private elevator, where the walls were so polished Harper could see the worry in her own eyes. At the top floor, doors parted to a view of the river and a horizon that looked like a promise broken on purpose. Lincoln stood at a conference table that could have doubled as a runway, sleeves rolled, tie loosened just enough to say he never needed a tie in the first place. He didn't move to shake hands. "Miss Miller," he said, voice smooth as poured concrete. "Mr. Reynolds, coffee, water, good sense." "Truth," Harper said, taking a chair. "I'll take that." He smiled like she'd handed him a child's drawing. "The truth is usually unprofitable." "Then you've been selling the wrong story." Jack placed a recorder on the table. Lincoln's gaze flicked to it, then to the attorney who appeared soundlessly at his side. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. "Counsel," Lincoln said, "this is a courtesy meeting." To Harper, "You created a spectacle at La Riviere. You frightened donors, embarrassed staff. You've already cost good people their jobs." Harper felt heat rise in her face. "You had a photo of my mother on your phone. She's not a donor. She's a woman you left behind." His jaw tightened a fraction. "I have thousands of photos. I support many organizations. Your mother volunteered decades ago at a gala where I donated half the evening's proceeds. That's where the picture came from. Charming nostalgia, nothing more. So charming you sent men to appear to arrange my silence." The attorney slid a folder across the table. "Cease and desist. Your accusations verge on defamation. Sign the attached agreement, accept our generosity, and allow this confusion to end." "Generosity," Harper repeated. Lincoln opened a sleek pen, scrawled on a check, tore it free. He didn't push it. He let it sit there like bait with a heartbeat. The number was obscene, enough to change a city block. "For your mother," he said, "for you, a gesture of goodwill. I prefer to solve problems with resources, not noise." Harper looked at the check until the zeros blurred. Then she slid an 8x10 copy of the Polaroid onto the table. Naomi under the canopy, Lincoln leaning in, blue ink on the bottom edge, N+L, last night of summer. "The thing about noise," she said, "is sometimes it's a fire alarm." His eyes cooled. The attorney's hand hovered over the photo as if it might burn. A cute relic, Lincoln said. Two people near each other at a public event. It proves nothing. I also have a letter. I can't give you what you deserve. My name, my fortune, my future. Signed L.D. His smile thinned to wire. Ms. Miller, you're trespassing in the past. It doesn't belong to you. It does if it's my origin story. He stepped closer, the view swallowing him in light. Up close he smelled like cedar and calculation. Careful, girl. People like you don't survive in my world. What? Jack's chair scraped softly. That is one hell of a pull quote. Lincoln ignored him. You think I run the city with secrets. I don't run it with outcomes. Here is an outcome. He tapped the check. Take it. Move your mother out of that walk-up. Nightstands that don't wobble. A life not haunted by decisions she made with a young man who didn't know better. Harper's throat went tight. You knew, she said. You always knew. I knew enough to grow up, he said. You should try it. She picked up the check, held it at eye level like evidence, then tore it cleanly down the middle. The halves fluttered to the table like pale leaves. Lincoln didn't blank. Cute, he said. Counsel. The attorney slid a second folder forward. Notice of intent. If you or your reporter publishes defamatory claims, we will file immediately. We will also petition for a protective order to prevent harassment of Mr. Davis's family and associates. Discovery goes both ways, Miss Miller. Do you want your mother's work history and medical records made public? Your employment file, your texts? Harper's palms sweated, but she kept her voice level. If there's nothing to hide, why are you so eager to hide it? Because I've earned the right to privacy, Lincoln said, and you've earned nothing but trouble. Jack leaned in. You're trying to scare her into the shadows. Shadows are where stories live before they devour empires. Lincoln's eyes cut to him. You're not the first man who thought ink could drown me. Harper gathered the copies into her envelope. We won't be drowned. Lincoln finally sat, steepling his fingers. Then I will be practical. If you persist, I release a statement. A disgruntled employee accosted me, then attempted to extort me using forged images. I will emphasize your mother's presence on volunteer rosters and the letter's lack of authentication. Meanwhile, my foundation will announce a new scholarship in Naomi Miller's name. I will look benevolent. You will look unwell. That's monstrous, Harper whispered. That's Monday, he said. By Friday, they'll forget your name. She stood. We're not finished. You are, he said, voice silk with a razor inside it. Security will walk you out. The escort down felt longer than the ride up. Harper's legs trembled but didn't show it. Jack walked tight beside her, Jassette. In the lobby, business carried on like nothing ever happened. The knot of silver thorns winked beneath the skylight. Outside, Winterbright slapped her cheeks. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You should have taken the deal. Clock's ticking. She texted back with fingers that shook and didn't. Try the sunshine. We're done in basements. Jack exhaled. You okay? No, she said, but I'm done being afraid of elevators. He nodded. I reached our lady, Marisol Vega. She teaches community photography in Jackson Heights. She sounded spooked. Said someone already came by asking about the gala. What? Lincoln's people? Or someone who wants to beat him to the punch. She agreed to talk at 5, neutral ground, a rec-center gym. 4 hours, Harper said. It sounded like both everything and nothing. I want my mom somewhere safe first. I called a friend at a legal clinic, Jack said. They have a safe apartment for emergency placements. Naomi can be there by tonight if she'll go. If, Harper murmured. They started toward the curb. A black town car idled at the fire hydrant. The rear door popped open on a whisper. Vanessa Blake stepped out, sunglasses even though the light was flat, coat belted like armor. Up close she was all cameras and calculation, a woman trained to ride weather like a racehorse. Congratulations, she said. You just made the only man in Manhattan who never forgets a face remember yours.
Harper's spine stiffened. If you're here to mock me, get in line. Vanessa's smile was almost kind. Mock you, relax, waitress. I'm here to help you burn him down. What? Jack went still. That's a new song from the woman on his arm. Maybe I'm changing genres, Vanessa said lightly. Then her voice dropped. He lied to me too. You want proof he's dirty? I know where he keeps it. Harper stared, heartbeat ricocheting in her ribs. The city seemed to hinge on the air between them.
Meet me tonight, Vanessa said, slipping a card into Harper's hand. No public places, no phones. I'll bring you something that makes men like him bleed. The town car door swung open again, inviting as a trap. Vanessa slid inside, lips tilting toward a secret. 5 hours, she said, and the door shut. Harper looked down at the card. No name, no number, just an address and a time inked in quick, expensive strokes. Jack's eyes met hers. We stick to the plan with Marisol. We don't chase shiny objects. But the card in Harper's palm felt hot, like a fuse that had just been lit. Across the glass canyon of Fifth Avenue, sunlight flared off 100 windows, and every reflection looked like a different version of the same city, one where truth was a weapon, and choosing when to draw it could save a life or ruin one. The rec center gym smelled of floor polish and old basketball nets, the air humming faintly with fluorescent lights. By 5 o'clock, kids had cleared out, leaving only echoing dribbles and the distant clatter of a janitor's cart. Harper paced the sidelines, clutching the strap of her messenger bag. Every sound felt like a warning bell. Jack leaned against the bleachers, scribbling in his notebook. "Relax," he said. "She'll come. People like Marisol don't blow off meetings. They disappear if they're scared." Comforting, Harper muttered. The double doors creaked and a woman entered, shoulders hunched inside a thick coat. Marisol Vega, mid-40s, hair streaked with gray, eyes darting everywhere like a bird scanning for hawks. She clutched a canvas tote. "Miss Vega," Harper stepped forward. Marisol's voice was hushed. "I only have a few minutes. They've been watching me." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Who's they?" Marisol ignored him, pulling a folder from her tote. "Back in the 90s, I volunteered at the Lincoln Foundation Gala. I took photos for the community newsletter. Most were harmless, donors with champagne, politicians with fake smiles, but one roll never made it to print." She opened the folder, glossy print slid out. Harper's breath caught. Her mother, Naomi, young and radiant, stood under the canopy lights, hand intertwined with Lincoln Davis's. Their faces close, intimacy undeniable. Marisol's hands shook. "I knew if I released them I'd lose everything, and I was right. A week later, my apartment was broken into, the negatives vanished, but I'd hidden duplicates." Jack whistled low. "That's a career killer for a man like Davis." Harper touched the photos like they might vanish. "Why now? Why give them to me?" Marisol's eyes glistened. "Because he ruined me. I tried to build a photography studio. Grants dried up, clients backed out, every door closed. I'm still paying off debts. And then I saw your face in the papers after the Riviera. You looked just like her. I thought maybe this time the truth survives." A sudden bang echoed from the hallway. Harper flinched. Marisol stuffed the folder back into her tote. "I shouldn't be here. They'll know." "Wait," Harper begged. "Please, we can protect you." Marisol shook her head violently. "You don't understand. He doesn't fight fair." The doors slammed open. 2 men in security uniforms strode in, eyes too sharp for janitors. "Ma'am," one said flatly, "you dropped this." He held up nothing but a piece of paper, a fake excuse. Marisol's face drained. "They followed me." Jack stepped forward. "She's leaving with us." The men didn't move. Silence thickened, broken only by the hum of the lights. Harper's pulse roared. Then Marisol shoved the tote into Harper's arms. "Don't let them bury me twice." Before Harper could answer, Marisol bolted past the men. One reached out, missed. She vanished through a side exit, footsteps fading into the city night. The men turned their gaze back to Harper and Jack. "Careful," one murmured. "Curiosity kills more than cats." They left as silently as they'd come, leaving the gym colder than before. Harper clutched the tote, her knuckles white. She risked everything for this. Jack's eyes burned with resolve that we make it count. But as Harper looked down at the photos, proof of her mother's hidden life, her chest tightened with a darker thought. If Marisol was right, then Lincoln Davis wasn't just fighting for reputation. He was fighting like a man who had already destroyed lives. And he wouldn't hesitate to destroy hers. The city was already closing in with nightfall when Harper and Jack ducked into a side street cafe, one of the few places in Manhattan where nobody cared who you were as long as you tipped. The neon open sign flickered like a heartbeat against the fogged window. Jack spread Marisol's photos across the table under the dim light of a hanging bulb. Naomi, young and beautiful, staring up at Lincoln with eyes Harper had only seen in rare moments of her childhood, moments of hope. Lincoln, confident, his hand wrapped around Naomi's waist like he owned the future. Harper's chest tightened. "This isn't just evidence, it's her whole story in a box." Jack nodded, "Which means we can't sit on it. We need an editor who'll run this without caving to his lawyers." "You trust someone?" One maybe. Jack's jaw flexed. Ellen Shaw, investigative desk. She hates billionaires more than I do. If we show her the photos and the letters, she won't blink. What? They packed up and left, slipping through streets heavy with the smell of roasted chestnuts and exhaust. At the Tribune office, Ellen's glass-walled office glowed with the lonely light of someone who hadn't left work in years. She looked up as they entered. "Jack Reynolds," she said, voice dry as ash. "I thought you swore you'd stop bringing me powder kegs." "This one's already lit," Jack replied. He handed her the photos. Ellen's sharp eyes scanned each print, her brows arched. Well, Lincoln Davis, the city's golden tower of integrity caught in a very compromising pose. And who's the young lady? Harper stepped forward, heart in her throat. "My mother." Ellen looked at her with new interest. "You're Naomi Miller's daughter." Harper blinked. "You knew her?" "Everyone knew her," Ellen said, leaning back. "Bright girl, too good for that crowd." And then poof, she vanished from every society column like she never existed. Harper's pulse quickened because he buried her. "What?" Ellen tapped a finger against the photos. "If I run this, Davis will unleash hell. He'll sue, he'll spin, he'll buy airtime to paint you as opportunists. Do you hear anything else?" Jack slid the letter across the desk. Ellen read it once, twice, then exhaled. "Now that's gold." Relief washed through Harper. For the first time in weeks, it felt like the truth might actually have a voice. Ellen folded her hands. "Leave it with me. I'll start drafting, but you both disappear until I call. Understood?" They agreed, leaving the building lighter than when they entered. But the light didn't last. Hours later, as Harper tried to rest at Jack's sublet, her phone buzzed. A headline notification lit the screen. "Waitress attempts to extort billionaire Lincoln Davis with fake photos." Harper's blood ran cold. She opened the article. The byline hit her like a punch. Ellen Shaw. The same photos, the same letter, but twisted. The article claimed Harper had fabricated evidence using doctored images and forged handwriting. Lincoln was quoted, "I have always supported young women in this city. It's tragic to see desperation turn to deceit." Her vision blurred. "She betrayed us," Harper whispered. Jack grabbed the phone, reading fast. His face darkened. "No, this isn't her writing. Look at the phrasing. This was planted. They hacked her system, maybe forced her hand. She wouldn't sell out like this." But Harper wasn't sure. Betrayal stung sharper than any threat. She saw her mother's face in those photos, now branded as fake. The world was laughing at her, at Naomi, at everything they'd fought for. The phone buzzed again, a new message from the unknown number. "Told you not to trust anyone. Next time you won't just lose a story, you'll lose her." Harper's knees buckled. Jack caught her before she hit the floor. "We still have the originals," he said urgently. "The truth isn't dead. But someone close to us is playing both sides." Harper's hand shook as she clutched the photos. The betrayal was bitter enough to taste. Ellen had fallen. If even allies could turn, then Lincoln Davis had more reach than she imagined. But one thought burned hotter than fear. If he thought betrayal would silence her, he had underestimated Naomi Miller's daughter. The city was restless, alive with the thrum of late-night taxis and sirens when Harper sat at Jack's kitchen table. The photos spread out before her like fragile wings. Her hands trembled as she traced the ink on the Polaroid and Puzzle last night of summer. Betrayal from Ellen, threats from shadows, her job gone, her mother trapped in silence. Every road had been cut off except one. "We still have the originals," Jack said, pacing. "If the Tribune's poison, we go somewhere else. Independent outlets, podcasts, underground forums. The truth doesn't need a skyscraper to stand tall." Harper shook her head. "That's not enough. I don't just want the world to hear me. I want him to answer." Jack stopped studying her. "You're talking about going public, live, where he can't spin it fast enough." Her phone buzzed before she could answer. A voicemail from Naomi. Harper pressed play with shaking fingers. "Harper," her mother's voice rasped. "If you're hearing this, I've run out of time. I swore I'd keep the past buried, but the past never stayed buried. Lincoln Davis isn't just the man I loved. He's your father." The phone slipped from Harper's hand. It hit the table with a dull thud, the words echoing long after the message ended. Jack sat down slowly. "I suspected, but hearing it." Harper's chest heaved. He knew. He's known all this time, and he let us live in poverty while he built palaces. Another voicemail notification appeared. Same number, same timestamp. Harper's hands shook as she hit play again. Harper, listen to me. He doesn't see people. He sees assets. If he knows you're his blood, he'll use you or erase you. Promise me, don't give him the chance. The message ended with a muffled sound like a door slamming or a struggle. Then silence. Jack's eyes were grim. She's in danger. Harper clenched the phone, her pulse roaring. Then we don't hide, we burn it all down. The next day, Harper and Jack stormed into a small community newsroom run by activists too stubborn to sell out. The editor, a wiry man named Theo, flipped through the photos and the letter with widening eyes. "This is dynamite," Theo said. "You're saying Davis is not just corrupt, he abandoned his own child." "Not abandoned," Harper said, voice breaking, "erased." Theo nodded slowly. "We can run this, not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. We stream it live, uncut. You tell your story in your own words, no filters. If they try to shut us down, mirrors of the feed will be everywhere within minutes." Jock exhaled. "It's risky. Once the genie's out, Davis will come for her with everything he has." Harper straightened. "Let him. I'm done being small." That evening, Harper sat under harsh lights in the cramped newsroom studio, the photos and letter displayed beside her. Camera's word. Theo gave her a nod. "You're live in 3, 2, 1. Harper looked straight into the lens. "My name is Harper Miller. A week ago I was a waitress. Tonight I'm here because a billionaire tried to bury my family's truth. Lincoln Davis isn't the man this city worships. He's the man who loved my mother, Naomi Miller, and then left her to raise me alone. He's my father, and he spent decades pretending I don't exist." Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. "When I found a father, my mother on his phone, exact to silence me with money. When I refused, his men followed me, threatened my mom, and forced lies into the press. But these photos are real, this letter is real, and his fear of me is real." She held up the Polaroid. The ink glared under the lights. N+L, last night of summer. "This is who he really is, a man who runs from his own blood, a man who thinks truth can be bought, but I'm here to tell you some things can't be erased." The feed ended. Silence flooded the room. Jack touched her shoulder. "You just declared war." Her phone lit up immediately. Messages poured in: support, threats, disbelief, rage. Then a private text from an unknown number. "You made your choice, now pay for it." A chill rippled down Harper's spine, but beneath the fear was something new: fire. Because for the first time, the world wasn't laughing. The world was listening. The storm broke within hours of Harper's live stream. Headlines blazed across every screen in the city. Waitress claims billionaire as her father. Lincoln Davis accused of erasing secret daughter. Exclusive photos and letters point to hidden past. The story caught fire online, spreading faster than any of Lincoln's lawyers could draft denials. Clips of Harper's trembling but defiant words flooded feeds. Hashtags trended. Strangers debated whether she was brave or reckless, liar or truth-teller. By dawn, news trucks idled outside Davis Global's tower. Lincoln's publicist issued a statement calling the claims baseless fabrications, but the air around him had already shifted. Billionaires thrive on invincibility. Now, the city smelled blood. Harper hadn't slept. She paced Jack's apartment, her phone buzzing nonstop. Supporters sent messages of solidarity. Trolls spat venom. Threats mingled with hope, strangers offering spare bedrooms, lawyers' prayers. At 9 a.m., her mother finally called. Naomi's voice was fragile but steady. "Harper, you lit the match." "I had to," Harper whispered. "He's not just my story anymore, Mom. He's everyone's story of power-crushing truth." Naomi's silence carried decades of pain. Then she said softly, "Whatever happens now, I'm proud of you." "What?" Harper pressed the phone to her chest when the call ended, swallowing a sob. At Davis Global, Lincoln's world was unraveling. His board demanded an emergency meeting. Partners threatened to pull out. Investors panicked. Cameras swarmed the building, flashing at every movement, every car. Vanessa Blake stepped from the shadows of her penthouse, hair pulled back, lips tight. She stood at his bar, sipping whiskey like it was water. "You always said perception is everything," she told him coolly. "Perception says you're finished." He glared. "You think you'll survive this by gloating?" She smirked. "Survive, Lincoln. I'm thriving. I already leaked your private accounts, offshore funds, shell companies. By the time the feds arrive, you'll be the one answering questions, not me." Lincoln's face drained. "You Don't look so shocked. You made me play pretty on your arm, but I've been playing chess while you played God. What? She set her glass down and walked away, heels striking like nails in a coffin. For the first time in decades, Lincoln Davis was alone. By evening, federal agents stormed his offices. The images hit live television. Lincoln escorted in handcuffs, jaw clenched, cameras flashing like lightning. The city erupted. Some cheered, others gasped. For Harper, watching from Jack's apartment, the sight hollowed her out. "That's it," Jack murmured, "the fall." But Harper didn't smile. Her hands shook as tears spilled. "It doesn't feel like winning. It feels like breaking something I should never have had to touch." Jack touched her arm. "That's because justice isn't sweet. It's heavy, but it's yours." Weeks passed, court hearings, indictments, endless noise. Lincoln's empire crumbled piece by piece, his allies scattered. Vanessa sold interviews. Ellen Shaw resurfaced, apologizing publicly for being forced into silence by a cyber breach. But Harper began to breathe again. She found a new job, not as a waitress, but as an advocate for workers at risk of retaliation. The girl who once balanced trays in silence now spoke on stages, telling her story to give others strength. Naomi attended her first event, sitting front row, tissues clutched in her lap. When Harper spoke about truth, her mother wept openly. Afterward, Harper wrapped her in a hug. "We're free now, Mom." Naomi pressed her forehead against her daughter's. "We always were, we just didn't believe it." One night, months later, Harper stood on the same pier where Naomi had confessed everything. The water lapped against the pylons, gentler now, like the city had decided to exhale. Jack joined her, hands in his pockets. "You still think about him," Jack said quietly. "Every day," Harper admitted, "but not like before, not with fear, just with understanding. He tried to erase me, but all he did was prove I exist." Jack smiled faintly. "You're stronger than his empire ever was."
What? She looked at him, the man who had walked beside her through shadows, and for the first time, she let herself believe in a future not built on secrets. The wind tugged at her hair, the city lights shimmered, and Harper Miller, once just a waitress, now stood unafraid in the open night, carrying both the scars of truth and the freedom it gave her.